I'm going to tell you about why celebrating this year, actually really looking back at 2020 as a great year, is going to make a big difference to you in 2021. So, everyone, my name is Anthony Taylor. If we haven't met yet, I'm broadcasting live from my mobile office with 360-degree views, and I'm super excited to help you celebrate this year. So, this year has been pretty crappy, and there's been a lot of bad stuff. But in your team and in your organization, there's certainly got to be some wins. Even just recognizing that you've made it through this year is an accomplishment in itself. So I'm going to give you sort of two different ways to look at and to assess how 2020 would have gone for you. One of the ways is to, sort of go about your day to day as a leader, as a business owner, what have you, and looking at all the things that went wrong, all the things that didn't happen, and all of the places you might have failed. I mean, that's sort of like below the line. It's not a very fun place to be. It's very critical. There's not a lot of good stuff happening there, and it sort of stifles any possibility moving forward. You're just sort of waiting for things to improve and just like waiting for whatever circumstance that surrounds you and surrounds this year to be over. And it may or may not be over. The other perspective is to actually look at 2020 as a great year and for recognizing maybe not a great year, maybe it's like not the right word, but to look at all of the different things that there are to celebrate from your own perspective or from your leadership perspective or from your process or growth perspective, sort of using a balanced scorecard approach. So, um, obviously, it's good. You can like celebrate the wins. And I find that sometimes if you don't have anything that you're looking forward to, it's pretty crappy. Sorry, I'm going to adjust that on my phone. So, um, why is it useful to reflect back on your leadership, and why is it important to reflect back on your wins? So often people keep going forward, 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 forward without ever taking the time to look back at what actually happened. Like that's one of the things that contributes to burnout because you don't ever take time to celebrate. And in this 2020 year where it feels like there's nothing to celebrate, you just keep moving forward, waiting, waiting, waiting for whatever's coming next. So for you and your team to take the time out to celebrate in itself is actually going to be able to put a positive spin on the little wins that you can pull out of this year. The other reason that you want to reflect back and look back at and celebrate some of the successes is because you probably tracking key performance indicators in terms of revenue, in terms of sales, in terms of, whatever those key metrics are within your organization. But you might not be tracking any growth or development in your leadership, in your ability to lead people, work with people, communicate, and work as a team. I was working with somebody today, and we've been working with them for 1 year, coaching them in, relatively tough environment. They've got hundreds of employees. They've got multiple locations. They've got a lot of overhead, and they've got, like any team, challenges at the leadership. But like every month, we talk a couple times a month, and we say, okay, what are the little pieces? 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 And separately, they don't feel like much. But when you look at the compound effect of 12 months of coaching or 12 months of development or 12 months of whatever, it's leaps and bounds from where you started. But you never actually recognize that if you don't take the time out to look at it. The other thing that's really useful about taking the time out, especially reflecting on your leadership, communication, team building culture, like things that you might not be tracking, is that it gives you a platform and a foundation to build on as you move into 2021. You can say, okay, well, here's what we did because we actually took the time to reflect, to look back, to see what was really important to us. And then we say, well, given that this is like the level that we got to, how can I elevate that? How can I get to the next level in my leadership? How can I get the next level in my team development, in my culture, in my ability to be productive? Because from a strategic planning perspective, which as we talk a lot about strategic planning and looking at your vision and where you want to go. The environment around your team, the environment around you as a leader, the conditions that the world is not like what it was a year or 2 or 3 years ago. It's totally new. So, what I want to invite you to do as you're watching this is to look and say, try to anticipate where your team is going to be at. Try to anticipate what's happening in the world around you and say, well, what would I need to do? Where do I need to go to work? How do I need to develop myself so that I can support not only myself, but those around me? How can I build on all of the work that I've done in 2020 and acknowledge myself for the work that I've done? And, for those of you watching it, I don't know who you are. There's 3 of you right now. I'm sure there's going to be more, but there's less now. I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you did this year, but I know you did something. I know that you built. I know that you worked through what it was. It didn't have to be pretty. It probably wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty for me. I've definitely had my crying fits and my lamenting times and my below the line times, and that's okay. But then there's stuff to be pulled out from that. There's a lot of wins to be pulled out of that. There's a lot of lessons to be pulled out of that. And then you say, well, how do I build on that? And what does building on that look like? And how will I know when I've made a difference? And how will I know what my team needs? And you know, so look back on whatever wins you can take from 2020. Look back on how you've developed as a leader, as a person who works in teams, and then start to think about how can you build on that in 2021, sorry. How can you build on that? How can you incorporate that with your team? And then how can your development fit in with the development of those around you? Okay. So I hope that you take the opportunity to celebrate with your team, to really recognize that you've probably accomplished a lot more than you think you have in the past couple months. Take that into your team, get everybody to commit and move forward. And I think you'll find that there's a brighter future, not just because there's a vaccine and not just because there's going to be vacation time, but because there is a brighter future coming. And if you take the break over the holidays, your team will be more responsive if they think about it like they're coming in on a high. So you have a choice now. Do you want to enter 2021 on a high, as in looking back at all of the things you celebrated, or do you want to enter 2021 on a low and just look at all the problems around you? The choice is yours. You know what I'm going to encourage you to do. I hope that helps. And if you like this video, just give it a like. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you have any comments, if you did this with your team, when you do this with your team, I'd love to hear how it goes, how it went, what you learned. And I invite you to be curious through the process. Curious for yourself. Where can you take yourself? And then curious for others around your team. How can you be a leader for them? How can you lead above? How can you lead below? How can you lead side to side and support your organization moving forward? All right, my name is Anthony Taylor. It is Friday, December 4th or 3rd. I hope you have a great day. I hope today helped, and I look forward to seeing you next time.